Yes. Yes, good morning everyone. 17th December 2021. Yes, let's see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, so these are the important developments. Look at the first page of the article. 1971 war altered the ideological map. Mr. Kovind, the President of India, so he is visiting Bangladesh to celebrate the 50th year of Bangladesh Liberation War and the independence of Bangladesh, or let's say formation of separate country. Right, so this is important from post-independence history, GS1 paper. Are you aware about the 2013 mains examination question? There was direct question talking about which circumstances were led to India's intervention and formation of a separate country, Bangladesh. So critically examine those compulsions. Such kind of question was there. So we'll look into all these developments, what happened at that time and how Bangladesh country, separate country was formed, India's intervention. Okay, so all these aspects we'll discuss there. Then on page number 6, editorial page, reflections on flying blind into storm. Now this lead article, again it is talking about, let's say, the data availability regarding the infections, along with that the vaccination that is going on. So yes, the common, let's say, topic is being discussed again and again. I guess we have talked about this public data availability regarding how the government is not having the data related to number of infections, the number of variants and their, let's say, number of infections of different variants. It is not in public domain, and that's why it becomes very difficult for actions, measures to be taken. Okay, so yes, already we have discussed this topic, we will not discuss again. But the important article on bottom side, WTO's challenge to MSP is another frontier to cross. Now, yes, in ED lecture also we have discussed legalizing MSP aspect. Now, we should understand here that legalization of MSP will lead to the WTO agreement on agriculture of WTO. There will be huge challenge in passing or that legality of that particular provisions. Okay, so we will try to understand this from GS3 paper, economy part. It is part of our syllabus. What are different subsidies in that agreement of agriculture? Okay, so amber box subsidies, blue box subsidies, green box subsidies. It is important from mains perspective as well as prelims perspective. Okay. On left hand side, wrong forum. This particular article, yes, day before yesterday, briefly we told you that there was one resolution in UNSC talking about climate change to be considered as security issue, and that's why the giving powers to UNSC to deal with this climate change issue also. And here Russia along with India, they objected to that, China abstained from voting, so that's why the resolution was not passed. We will try to understand and analyze this particular resolution and how it is not correct approach. IR section, GS2 paper. On right hand side is the Armed Forces Special Powers Act passed its expiry date. Again, the experts are discussing the same issue here. Already we have discussed APSPA many times in the Hindu newspaper in last 1 or 2 weeks, as well as in ED lectures we have in detailed discussion about the APSPA Act. Okay, so we will not deal again with that because already we are discussing same articles, it is repeating. Okay, now on page number 8, cabinet not to raise the girls marriage age to 21. Okay, so the government is possibly going to bring the bill here to amend the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, along with various personal laws will be amended to bring the uniformity here. At present, we know that the boys age 21, girls age 18. Now, both, let's say, age of boy and girl for the marriage will be 21 after this amendment is passed. So we'll try to understand the background when our Prime Minister last year also talked about this particular reform. Okay, so yes, let's discuss these articles in detail one by one. Other articles not much relevant to our examination. Pardon me for yesterday not discussing one important article, Durga Puja getting UNESCO Cultural Heritage Tag. So in daily current affairs that we give as a PDF, okay, if you, the online students, if they do not know about this, you can join the Telegram channel and their daily current affairs. In addition to Hindu newspaper, all other important newspapers, PIB, all let's say important websites, magazine websites like Down to Earth, they are covered there, and that booklet is every day posted in that Telegram channel. Okay, so I would like to advise you to visit and join that Telegram channel also. Fine, let's discuss these articles in detail. WTO challenge to MSP is another frontier to cross. So already we are discussing that how legalizing MSP is going to create problem, but that is at domestic level, at let's say country level. But what about the international level? All of us know that, and it is part of our syllabus, GS3 paper, mains examination, WTO, World Trade Organization, and different agreements under it. And agreement on agriculture is one of the important agreement under WTO, and all the members of WTO are supposed to follow this. Okay. So how this MSP, already it is creating problem, and now in future when it is legalized, it is going to create more challenge in obligation of this particular agreement. Let's understand this. Now domestic subsidies under this agreement on agriculture are divided into three categories: green box, blue box, amber box. Let's understand first of all which kind of subsidies are included in this. Okay, so green box here means the income support, directly income support to farmers, which is not linked to production. Which is not linked to production. Okay, for example, simply PM Kisan scheme. So there what we are giving, we are directly giving 2003 installment, 6,000 rupees to the farmers. Is it linked to any production? Like आपको इतना production करना ही होगा, इस crop का ही करना पड़ेगा, ऐसा कोई limitation नहीं है वहाँ पे. So it is not linked to production. Okay, and that is included in green box. Okay, now let's find out what is there in blue box. Now blue box related, let's say, which kind of subsidies are included here. So here also we can say that those subsidies which limit the production, which limit the production. Okay, so for example, area based subsidies, area based subsidies or support. That means, for example, the farmers, small farmers, medium scale farmers, so they are to some extent weaker sections, and that's why directly giving support to them will be included here in, we can say, blue box. On the basis of land holding we are talking. Okay, so here what we can understand, we are trying to limit the production. Okay, we are not giving the subsidies to large landholders that will increase the production. Okay, so on the basis of, we can say that such kind of blue box is added. Now what is amber box? Now this is, we can say, the bone of contention, especially related to developing countries. Now what we observe, developed countries largely give the subsidies which fall under green box. Okay, which largely fall under green box, and that's why, and they are unlimitedly available and allowed. Okay, under this agreement, let's say there is no restriction of providing subsidies under green box as well as blue box, but there are restrictions in amber box. Now what is amber box? Yes, the subsidies which focuses on increase in production, or simply we can say that which are linked to production. They are linked to production. For example, here we will say that MSP, minimum support price. So obviously it is going to further increase, it is acting as incentive for the farmers to produce, and that's why it is included in amber box. And there are also many non-direct or indirect subsidies. Indirect subsidies like fertilizer subsidy, power subsidy, seeds, right? So these subsidies are also included in amber box because they are going to further increase the production.
It will increase the production level.
Yes, so it is going to increase the production level, and that's why these subsidies will be called as trade distorting subsidies. Use these words in your answer, very important. Trade distorting. So trade at international level, because what happens when these food grains are exported in the international market, or they are sold in international market, they will be more competitive as compared to other let's say food grains from the other countries, because here the support is given. The support is given, that's why input cost is less. The farmers input cost is less, and that's why the products becomes more competitive. Okay? They can be sold at lower prices.
It will create as a local competition as the international competition.
Yes, but what we are observing in, let's say, now there are restrictions. Let's find out restrictions. What kind of restrictions? You can see here that to measure the amber box support, WTO member countries are required to compute aggregate measurement of support, AMS. This is again important terminology.
Present China is using this method only, sir.
India is also using.
Compared to India,
Yes.
it's going to be heavy.
Yes, because for developing countries it is allowed. Yes, aggregate measurement of support. Now how it is calculated? Some terminologies, some facts are important here. Like developing countries such as India are allowed to provide de minimis level of product and non-product domestic subsidies. Now what are product and non-product domestic subsidies in the amber box category? So product based means for a particular product, like simply MSP. MSP for a particular crop is announced, right? So that is product based. Along with that, non-product based. Now what are non-product based? Here you can say fertilizer. Fertilizers can be for more than one product, irrespective of product. There can be power subsidy. So that is, we can say simply non-product based. In product based you can again add here seed for particular crop. Okay, so developing countries have this de minimis level of these subsidies, and they are calculated together as aggregate measurement of support. If we are talking about, let's say, product based, 10%, maximum 10% of total subsidies, and even for non-product domestic, total together less than 10% is required. Okay, now there is comparison of all this MSP. So procurement at MSP, after comparing it with fixed external price, ERP. Okay, external reference price, an average price based on the base years of 1986 and 88.
Sir, these are all less than 10% only, sir.
Less than
Production,
10%.
non-production.
Yes. But here in non-production together it is calculated. It is for individual crop. For individual crop, and here together 10%. Okay. Now, external reference price base year is this one, and it has to be included in this AMS together the procurement at MSP. Suppose there is wheat production is. So whatever the procurement at MSP is happening, at compared to this external reference price, it is included in AMS, and if it goes more than de minimis level, that is 10%, then there will be problem. It goes against the provision of.
It will affect to remaining crops also, sir. All persons will be converted to that crop. Remaining food grains will be shortage on particular country also.
Yes, that is also problem. That is again the other problem, but this is the basic criteria. It can be asked in prelims examination also. Is this clear? Okay. Now what is the problem? The problem is with the developing countries like India. Why we give MSP? Because we have this, let's say, support. We have to support the farmers as well as food security. These two are the important objectives, and we know that the population level is huge. That's why food security and public procurement program for wheat and rice we have. PDS, Public Distribution System, NFSA, National Food Security Act is there, and that's why it ensures food security. It is very important for us. And therefore, the developing countries like India, China have been arguing that this should be changed. The provision in agreement on agriculture, especially amber box, this subsidies. Why? Because developing countries are required to provide these subsidies, while developed countries are providing this green box subsidies. So there is no limit there. But developing countries cannot provide the income support directly. Try to understand. If India starts to provide income support directly at present, then the farmers may not be incentivized to produce particular crop. Try to understand this. The farmer may produce for horticulture crop, more valued crop.
Yes, whatever the benefit of open market.
Yes. So major problem will come with food security. That's why we are not providing more, we can say, and also it will act as a burden to the resources. Targeted benefit is not there. Okay, so that's why we are challenging this amber box provision. And there was one peace clause added. So in the Bali meeting of WTO, it is called as Bali package, and there was peace clause there added in that AOA, Agreement on Agriculture. Now this peace clause suggests that unless and until we find the appropriate agreeable solution to all countries, we will allow developing countries to provide this support under amber box. So there will not be any kind of, let's say, litigation against those countries. Okay, so that's why this peace clause, and this is beneficial for us. Peace clause forbids bringing legal challenges against price support based procurement for food security purposes. That is our program, public procurement program, even if it breaches the limit on domestic support. So like recently India, in terms of rice production, India breached this, and the procurement support was 13% subsidy for rice.
The present overproduction, surplus of.
Because we have to buy that, na? Once the government announces MSP, we have to buy that.
Especially Telangana government is fighting continuously, sir.
Yes, yes. Right. So, however, peace clause is subject to several conditions. Peace clause is subject to several conditions. What are the conditions? It is only allowed for food security purpose program. not other. Okay, it is only allowed for food security purpose program, not other. Second thing, whenever the subsidy is breached more than 10% or more than de minimis level, it has to report to the WTO, and that's why Government of India reported that. Okay, it has to report that. So such kind of restrictions are there, several conditions are there, and they are to be followed. Now, what will happen if all 23 crops at MSP there is legalization? There will be many problems. The AMS will increase, aggregate measurement support, AMS, together all these subsidies under amber box, already we are breaching that. And if we are giving the let's say MSP and we are procuring all these crops, suppose the government is procuring all these crops, it will increase the AMS. Second thing, legalization of MSP means the government may force the market, private sector to buy those products at particular price. That means again the AMS will increase. That is also included in AMS. So that will create the challenge, legal challenge at WTO. So you should be aware about this issue. Fine. So that's why what India can do way forward, India can move away from price based support in the form of MSP to income based support. First thing. Okay. Income based support means directly benefiting the farmers. Now we have this, let's say, PM Kisan. Along with this, we also provide, let's say, incentives in terms of interest subvention on loans, right? Interest subvention on agriculture loans, farm loans. Then along with that, crop insurance, low interest rate is there for crop insurance. This is also good. Deficiency payment, this can be done. We talked about this in which particular scheme? PM Asha, in this direction. Already government is implementing PM Asha scheme. So this deficiency payment will not be added in the amber box. Okay, because it is not trade distorting.
It is only subsidy.
It is directly in terms of income based support. Okay.
Subsidy or nothing but subsidy.
It is subsidy, but it is income based. Whenever there is deficiency in terms of selling of that produce in the market and the MSP that is announced or the assured price that is announced, that payment is being done. Okay, so it will reduce the subsidy burden, AMS. Okay, and that's why we are, let's say, such kind of measures. Along with this, what we can do is the other measures we suggested in ED, like mechanization of agriculture, increasing irrigation facilities and all these things, so that overall agriculture production increases. There is diversification of agriculture and the farmers are secured. Along with that, food security is also there. So it will ultimately bring down all these subsidies. Okay, so what kind of question you can see here? A legal guarantee for MSP violate its international law obligation enshrined in the agreement on agriculture of WTO. Elaborate. So whatever the discussion we had, just you have to write all this here. Very important topic, we can expect direct question. Okay. Now moving on to next, wrong forum, UN Security Council draft resolution on climate change. So it was recently was there in India and Russia did not vote in favor. China abstained. This was piloted by Ireland and Niger. Okay, so that's why it was not passed. Russia, we know that it is having veto powers and it vetoed that resolution. China abstained. Let's understand the view of proposers. who were advocating this, supporters of the resolution, they consider that climate change is becoming security issue. Climate change is becoming security issue. How? Like because of climate change, there are also the problems of climate refugee, loss of livelihood. Okay, so the problem of water scarcity can be there. It can lead to many conflicts between countries. Okay, so that's why it is being said that it may result into many security issues in future. जैसे हम बोलते हैं कि थर्ड वर्ल्ड वॉर विल बी फॉट फॉर वाटर, ऐसा बोलते हैं ना, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई वी कैन the countries are of the view that climate change is security issue. However, the view of opposition like India, Russia, China, they consider here that climate change should not be looked from the security issue. Otherwise, it will have many other manifestations. Let's understand that problem. In let's say, first of all, we should understand the view of opposition that UNSC is responsible for ensuring, what is the mandate of UNSC? World peace and security. And that's why climate change is not under the mandate of UNSC and should not be brought under the mandate of UNSC. Let's analyze why. Though we can understand the urgency that is shown here to bring or take substantial actions towards climate change by bringing it in UNSC. However, we should understand that UNSC members, who are the UNSC members, permanent 5 members? Yes, so US, Russia, China, France, UK. Now, 4 of them are developed countries. Only China is developing, but yes, majority of them are industrialized countries. And that's why what they can do here is, whatever the decisions taken, there will be favorable to developed countries largely. Okay, and that's why it is not good for climate change negotiations. Developed countries. Second thing, we should understand whatever the negotiations that are going on under UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So they are consensus based. Though they are slow, this is the criticism, they are slow, but they are consensus based, consensus among all. It is inclusive. UNSC is not inclusive. There are permanent 5, total 15 members. Nothing else represented there. Okay, so they are the UNFCCC negotiations in COP, Conference of Parties, they are inclusive, consensus based, and that's why it should be promoted. Now it is the responsibility of UNFCCC or all countries, the members of UNFCCC, more than 190 members. It is their responsibility here onwards to bring all the issues related to climate change in the negotiations. Up till now, they are only talking about mitigation, adaptation, fund transfer and technology transfer. But here onwards, they should bring the other aspects also, climate change related aspects. So here onwards, there can be, let's say, because of climate change, there will be many issues. Like there can be refugee crisis, there can be many disasters, there can be many, let's say, issues related to water scarcity, suppose. So what about this? So in future, the negotiations by the UNFCCC should bring all the relevant aspects in the discussion, debate, and these countries can further take consensus based decision on these issues. Rather than bringing under UNSC, they should be discussed under this platform, right? तो हमें व्यू क्या लेना है लास्ट में? Our opinion should be this one.
We need to support as a universal condition to each and every country, not a particular country. Consensus based. Present situation basis.
Yes. So obviously we have progressed, right, under UNFCCC since 1992, almost 30 years. But we have observed Kyoto Protocol. We have observed Paris Agreement. So this is success of UNFCCC. So though they are slow, but it has been implemented on the consensus basis.
It is in a standard structure format, not
yes.
favor to any another country.
Yes. So it is not favor or disfavor. Okay? Yes. Fine. Next. 1971 war altered ideological map. Our president visited Bangladesh for the celebration of 50th year of liberation of Bangladesh and the formation or independence of the country from the erstwhile Pakistan. Yes, so some of the statements he has said. Along with that, our external affairs minister said that despite of COVID-19 restrictions, trade between India and Bangladesh crossed $10 billion. So in economic relation, you should be aware about the trade status. And then Bangladesh is India's largest trade partner in South Asia, fourth largest export destination globally, and India is Bangladesh's second largest trade partner. Okay, so you should be aware about the recent facts about economic relation, bilateral relation. We will not separately deal about India-Bangladesh. There will be many articles about India-Bangladesh relations. So there we will discuss. But now we should understand today that what kind of question UPSC asks. Critically examine the compulsions which prompted India to play a decisive role in emergence of Bangladesh. This was asked in GS1 paper UPSC 2013. There was very good article on 26 April, I guess, 25 or 26 April. There in the Hindu analysis, I have discussed this liberation war in detail. Okay, so we have provided the link also. Briefly, I am going to discuss this topic related to liberation war. Now, we know that the Bangladesh was the East Pakistan after independence. It was part of Pakistan country. There was West Pakistan and East Pakistan. However, immediately after independence, it was felt by the people of East Pakistan were being dominated by West Pakistan. Along with that, the language issue was the prominent concern, as they were Bengali speaking Muslim population largely in East Pakistan, and this was to some extent not acknowledged, appreciated by the people and the authorities in the West Pakistan. So the language movement started in 1948, and later on the dissent and the unrest gathered in 1970 when there was general elections in the Pakistan. The Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and his party Awami League won in East Pakistan with majority, and there was demand for independence by East Pakistan at that time. This was let's say not accepted by the authorities, and the power was not given to Awami League, and that created huge unrest in the East Pakistan region. In that situation, Pakistan army started Operation Searchlight. Operation Searchlight was a very dehumanized, or simply we can say various atrocities were there by the Pakistan army on the people of we can say East Pakistan at that time. And therefore, the Awami League along with, let's say, the rebels, revolutionaries in the name of Mukti Bahini. So they started rebelling against the East Pakistan authorities, or simply we can say Pakistan army. And they were trained by Indian army at that time. And this created let's say very serious situation, as lakhs of people started migrating, or simply refugees entered into India. Okay, and that this situation was handled carefully by the Prime Minister at that time, and the immediate intervention was required because the refugee crisis was huge. Okay, it would have acted as a huge burden on India, and that's why intervention was done. And on 3rd December 1971, intervention was done by Indian Army, and immediately on 16th December, Pakistan Army surrendered there, and then we can say that around 90,000 prisoners of war in exchange in 1972 through Shimla Agreement. Famous Shimla Agreement, 1972, India-Pakistan. So in that, the Pakistan agreed the formation or independence to the Bangladesh, along with in exchange of prisoners of war from India. Around 90,000 prisoners of war exchanged with Pakistan through that agreement. Okay, so this is the brief background. You should understand the compulsions in terms of human right violations, the violence that was going on in neighborhood. There was threat of the violence spill over into the country. Second, refugee crisis, huge burden on India's resources. And that's why, along with that, there was, let's say, the domestic voice being raised that India should intervene, because they were, we can say that, equal brothers and sisters during the independence movement. And there was sentiment of Bangladesh, so simply Bengali speaking people. Earlier, the Bengal was one united Bengal, and that had significant contribution in the let's say independence of the country. Okay, so these compulsions, you can say that, and the role played by leadership, role played by the leadership in the military also, armed forces also. Okay, like the Manekshaw, he was the let's say the leader at that time in terms of armed forces, and he maneuvered the situation very we can say intelligently. Okay, now cabinet not to raise girls marriage age to 21. Okay, so yes, this is again we can say that the progressive step being taken by the government in terms of women empowerment, ensuring the appropriate health to women, opportunities to women. Okay, center has decided to raise the legal age of marriage to women from present 18 to 21 years. Now, the legislative amendments to Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, it will be introduced. Along with that, certain amendments to various personal laws related to marriage for ensuring uniform age of marriage. For ensuring uniform age of marriage. Now the background to these development, last year on 15th August 2020, our Prime Minister in Independence speech has said that we will try to bring change in the legal age of marriage for the girl child, and they will let's say it was decided to form one 10-member committee. So yes, the 10-member task force led by former Samta Party chief Jaya Jaitley was formed, and the report was submitted, and it recommended that the age should be increased to 21 along with age of men or boys. Okay, though we can say that this panel's report is not in public domain yet. So presently what is the age? 18 for girl and 21 for boy.
But they are not changed men's. They are equal, they are raised only one female only.
So what do you say here? It should be increased?
Because of for completion of graduation level, it will take more than 23 years.
That is fine. The educational aspect is different. But what about rural areas? So there the problem is 21 year is also they consider as very let's say higher limit. There is problem of already child marriage. That will be discussed in coming lectures. कल उस पे editorial है कुछ जरूर आएगा.
According to village location, sir, 18 is the very burden to girls marriage.
Yes.
In rural areas.
And this is also being problematic for men also. Okay, so the concern is larger this one, and this may be criticized now. The change from 18 to 21 will be criticized.
Maybe not be considered mostly, sir, but 18 is a very
Yes.
heavy pressure to the village area.
Yes, so it will be criticized, but yes, surely the progressive measures are always criticized by the regressive elements in the society. This has been the case during the Renaissance also. During 19th century, we observed the same thing.
So, village areas, they will face the problem from society, sir. Physically, psychologically, they will face a lot of problems.
Yes, but we have to understand from the positive aspect for the women empowerment, how it is going to benefit them. Like, so their health, their children's health, it will reduce the, let's say, early pregnancy issue. Along with that, the educational opportunities. When they are not married off, so they will be allowed to learn. तो उनका जो higher education के opportunities है वो बढ़ेगी. And there will be some kind of equality, gender equality with men. Okay, so it is both socially and psychologically empowering aspect. ठीक है? So
compared to now, sir, situation, middle of the graduation only they will getting married and they are continuing the education, sir. But
already that is happening.
Happening, sir.
Yes. Yes.
While the graduation, middle of the graduation, they are going to be married. After 18.
Yes.
They are middle in the graduation level.
Yes.
Most of the marriage has been agreed only if you want to, if I allow to my education, I will marry. Otherwise, I will not.
Yes.
Based on that situation, most of the, I worked in women's colleges.
Yes.
70% of people has been married.
Yes.
In between graduation, after 18.
Yes. Yes. So this is good thing. No, earlier what used to happen, before graduation itself, they were married off. Yes. Now at least they are doing the graduation, or now they will complete the graduation, and then only there will be marriage.
Now men are facing one problem. If I am unable to marry below graduation level, my children will affect in future. They are not able to communicate with the parents. Mother is not able to take care of the education of children in future if below graduation level. For that purpose, they are increasing.
No, that is fine. See, responsibility is of both, and nowadays it is, let's say, the women are educated. At least up to 10 or 12th class, they are educated. Now here onwards, they will be also graduated. This is beneficial for children also, their education also. So it is progressive step. We have to, let's say, what you can say, agree with the government here.
But according to the census of India, 70% of people are rural areas.
No, not 70, 60, 68, or now it may have completely reduced up to 60%. Next census, okay.
These people will get
no, they will criticize. There will be problem, but there is already positive change created by the government. Like through the government schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, there is attitudinal change now. And the people even in rural area, they are not marrying below 18 years. Okay, so that's why. And now, जब 18 साल नहीं था, तो उससे नीचे होता था. Now, when we increase to 21, there will be again pressure on them to, let's say, help them get educated. तो वो काफ़ी चीज़ें फ़र्क पड़ेगी. Maternal, we have the sustainable development goals also, like MMR, IMR, we have to improve. Still the problem is there in MMR. Okay, so that will improve because of this, right? Okay, fine. So what should be answer to this question? Minimum support price, MSP. We had discussed now in the first article itself. It was related to?
Blue box only. Green box is the only.
See, green box and blue box, it was allowed, no?
Yes,
unlimited.
Green box and blue box.
And MSP is creating problem. Which particular is creating problem?
Amber box, it will be create the international markets.
Yes, so it comes under amber box, no? MSP and other fertilizer based, power based MSP, the product based and non-product based subsidies. So it is amber box. Okay, it should be very clear to you. There can be match the following type of question. On left hand side these boxes and right hand side different subsidies can be asked. Okay, now the second question.
Limit the production level is in blue box now, sir.
Huh?
Blue box.
Yes, limiting production is in blue box, right? Zoom on kar do. Yes, so this is in blue box, right? Everyone, online students, are you following? Yes, so it is talking about the limiting production. Limiting the production, that falls under blue box. Okay, and when it is not linked to production, it is green box. And when it promotes the production, that comes under amber box. Simply remember that. Fine? Okay, so these are the important articles. Any question? Okay, so let us stop. We'll meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.